Okay, so video number 10 in this series on sun signs of love and sex is Capricorn, which applies to people born between December 22nd and January 19th of each year, and then into the following year.
Not just sun sign.
And does not just apply to sun sign like all the other ones, also applies to...
You have a whole bunch of other things in there.
Alright, but we only have 15 minutes, so I'm going to get started. This is the third of the Earth signs under the ruling planet Saturn, taskmaster and great teacher of the zodiac. And too often, children of Saturn are slow to learn their lessons, and it is probably for this reason that subjects under its influence live to a great age, far beyond the expected 70. This longevity permits them to realize themselves over a longer period of time. The modern symbol of Capricorn is the goat, but the ancient astrologers drew Capricorn as a sea goat possessing the forelegs of a goat and the tail of a fish, where the hind legs are ordinarily found. They were probably correct in their symbolism, for many Capricorns leap forward 2 steps only to fall back 4. It is a highly sexual sign, not so much concerned with the warmth and love, but more associated with a cold-blooded lust. From an early age until the point of death, the most salient characteristic of Capricorn is his appreciation to the opposite sex and his inclination to indulge in the sex act. Many men born in this sign have flamboyant love affairs when they are elderly, which startle the world. A stimulating partner can rejuvenate their not too readily waning desires into a kind of mad passion, which one usually associates with younger men in the springtime of life. But with all of this interest and passion, Capricorn cannot be regarded as a warm, affectionate person unless he is in a relationship where sexuality dominates and love follows. Then the Capricornian, male or female, will do all he can to sustain the interest of his partner, inasmuch as he is the most remarkable lover of the entire zodiac. Yet there is a conservatism which the male evidences to the point of leading a double life. On one hand, he may represent himself to be a stern merchant, the father figure, the city business tycoon, but on the other hand, his flirtatious nature will always come to the fore when he finds himself in the presence of an attractive female. His method of wooing is delineated by a fine display of courtly manners which are guaranteed to make any female feel quite safe. In youth, the Capricorn is coquettish. In middle life, he becomes a philanderer, and in old age, he becomes lustful and inclined to lechery. Among his intimate friends, he may even take great delight in boasting of past conquests. It is interesting to notice, however, that he rarely exaggerates or discusses his current love life. All this is a contradiction to the facade he maintains before the world. He is often devout and gives the impression of being a paragon of virtue. Fearful of his sexual escapades may be discovered, and the identities of his paramours may be revealed. He can sink into profound dependency. He is a lawmaker by instinct, but the laws are of his own manufacture, and he can be unremitting in expecting others to stand by them. Any deviation from his ideas of orderliness make him unforgiving, resolute, and harsh. This is a hard, dry sign. Even the physical appearance of the subject has a lack of resilience. The figure is often tall and lean. As the age comes on, there is a tendency for the bones to become prominent. Capricorns are subject to such ailments as arthritis and rheumatism, and the lower limbs are in particular as age creeps on them. In time, medical research may reveal that this Capricornian predisposition stems from tensions brought on by remorse and by the guilt complexes which are the result of their sexual indulgence outside conventional marriage. When the Capricornian is sure that his love affair is secret, he is sexually very demanding of his partner. He is always a good lover, but he is rarely sexually satisfied. He is strictly a bedroom Casanova who, under cover of darkness, can throw all his inhibitions to the wind and allow his lust to have full play. But the idea of real love never intrudes on his thoughts during the course of his everyday existence, nor during the hours of his working life. It is odd that the same Capricorn who can be an attentive lover in the small hours of the morning is still nevertheless capable of giving a sulky snarl if the breakfast coffee served by his current amour does not meet his approval. Before getting involved in marriage, he generally seeks some material benefit, since his extramarital affairs render him content with the amount of sexual activity, if not with the quality. Capricornians are successful people, especially when they have had the potential for success themselves and have missed the boat in the first 2/3 of their lives. Influenced by Saturn, a planet which often personified as the bearded Father Time with the scythe, subjects of Capricorn can generally see, in retrospect, that their own misfortunes have been the result of bad timing. Capricorn is not a gambler. He likes to hold on to what he has become because change offends his sense of routine. His methodical nature makes him the type of gardener who prunes the rose trees, so fully that nothing is left to grow and blossom. Capricorn is always surprised and hurt when he has nothing to show for his orderly labors. He is certain that his attentions have been good and well motivated, but he does not understand that when virtues are carried by extremes, they can boomerang disastrously. His sense of duty exceeds his ability to express true love in marriage unless his partner can meet the demands of his excessive sexual desires. In order to find love combined with sex, he generally has to experience several marriages. Capricorns enjoy voluptuous females in the most erotic forms of lovemaking. If they should find themselves really truly in love, their joy knows no bounds. It is probably for this reason that the older Capricorn becomes enchanted with someone much younger than himself. The amazing thing is that the younger person is often equally enchanted, much to the surprise and often the dismay of friends who are aware of the Capricorn's amorous propensities. If he is in a position to marry, this can turn out to be the last great love of his life, but all too often, with his penchant for bad timing, the Capricorn may meet this one person who fulfills all his erotic dreams only too late. He may awaken rudely from his love reveries to the fact that he has been married for many years and there is nothing to be done about it. The solidity of the married state is too much of a habit to break. It takes courage to break off a relationship of many years, and the Capricornian male is not noted for his courage in affairs of the heart, nor in other areas of life. Once again, the influence of his ruling planet of Saturn wins, and Capricorn is condemned to continued search for the soulmate who can fulfill all his desires, for a partner who can suit him perfectly in sex and love. Saturn is the planet which surpasses its subjects. It is a blockade, but even as it presents obstacles, it also offers challenges to its children, daring them to bypass the impossible roadblocks. Few succeed because of their fear of making change, for their apprehension as losing the security of an orderly routine which has supplied them with an emotional safety valve for such a long time. Generally, the Capricorn is lucky enough to have much respected, orderly wife who for years has been content to fulfill excellently the role of housekeeper and hostess, one who is willing to turn a blind eye should she become aware of her husband's roving eye and his participation in extramarital sexual activity. He, on his part, is often delighted to have such a wife, whom he can call upon sexually in the case of an extreme emergency. He will promise anything in order to get the attention of an attractive female, but when he has indulged in excessive sexual passions over a long period of time, he is ready to call it quits. The female by now may feel quite safe in the relationship and may be convinced that she is indeed the object of his real love as well as his lusts by putting her feelings aside. Capricorn will bow out of getting a divorce, using his faithful wife as the perfect excuse for ending the extramarital liaison. His excuses are only taking the reasonably valid form which many businessmen present when they are trapped in an unhappy situation. After a hectic love affair, many Capricornians suffer, and they seek to maintain their image with the object in their affection whom they have wooed with courtly, old-fashioned grace and charm, and whom they are now ready to leave. A Capricornian may come up with such old chestnuts as, "Well, after all, we have been married a long time. You would not respect me if I deserted my wife now, would you?" Or he may plead that his wife, having discovered his affair, has threatened suicide. However, it must be revealed that most people who are married to a Capricorn male have a built-in mechanism which precludes such an act. The Capricorn male seeking sexual adventure will always choose a female who is diametrically opposed in character and personality to his wife. If the wife is dark, then the lady love is fair. If the wife is shy, then the paramour is flamboyant. If the wife is frigid, then he seeks the most ardent female who looms in his orbit, and who will not rest until he has seduced her. He has great confidence in himself when pursuing females, and wants always to find his mistress, to let his mistress know that he is a rough diamond, he has a heart of gold. The Capricorn is probably the most dangerous of all lovers in the zodiac. Whereas Leo takes pride in his love affairs, Capricorn will always try to hide them behind a curtain of respectability, and basically he is an expert emotional con man. First, gain the confidence of the victim, even if it means sacrificing a few bucks. If the con man's rule, and so is the con man's rule, and so it is the case of the Capricornian. Occasionally he meets someone who beats him at his own game, and then he retires into his brooding, saturnine mood, often with his faithful wife at his side, anxious to help him lick his wounds. She will encourage and support him through his disappointments. Capricorn is so ruthless in this area that he may even succeed in making his wife believe that this affair will truly be the last one. When she accepts his promise, she is creating a bed of thorns for herself. Once recovered from his despair, the Capricorn male will repeat the whole routine again, increasing his romantic wisdom not one bit. In the case of the eternal goat aiming for the top of a mountain only to be held back by the fish's tail. However, Capricorn can survive on memories, and since old men are notorious for reminiscing when they have surrounded themselves with a few cronies, the Capricornian will relieve his amoral sexual life again and again verbally. Not even the most well-meaning wife with all her adoration and attention can prevent that from happening. When a man is alone, his conscience bothers him, and most Capricornians, by the time they reach old age, spend many a sleepless night because their active erotic desires are frustrated and because the weights of their guilt for past sexual transgressions. The Capricorn female is of totally different caliber. All too often she is the saint-like character of the zodiac. Content never to be in the limelight, she remains a devoted housekeeper once she is married, and is utterly dedicated to the comfort of her husband and children. She has few of the sexual traits of the male, though both sexes are conscious of their bodies. The female Capricorn is often an excellent dancer or teacher out of yoga, and her negative sexual energies find an outlet through these physical channels. Where the male is ambitious and often frustrated, the female, when she is in business, is delighted to work for someone else's benefit and is rarely ambitious. She seems to be slated from birth to give the best of herself to someone else. Any female exception to this rule must have beneficial planets in the Gemini or Taurus houses which can defeat the secretive quality of Capricorn. Unfortunately, most Capricorn females are under the power of Saturn, which is so strong an influence that it can rarely be debilitated, and the emotional life of the normal Capricornian woman suffers as a result. While the Capricorn male must find his emotional, romantic, and sexual experiences through several marriages plus extramarital relationships, the female Capricorn is satisfied to be married only once, and she'll make every effort to make that relationship successful. If her own career, her own personality has to be sacrificed for her lover's benefit, she will quickly bear the brunt of the decision and will rarely nag, although she has a peculiar offbeat way of making it clear that she has indeed made such a sacrifice. Her man can be so grateful for this help or so remorseful that she will make every effort to succeed in her own career in order to make the renunciation of her career worthwhile. Subjects of Capricorn have a reputation for overindulgence in alcohol, which they drink not so much as a social exercise but as an escape, when the influences of Saturn prove to be insurmountable obstacles rather than a challenge to life and living. No one can sink into despair more deeply than the Capricorn, and the roots of this desperation lie in his need for sexual activity. When the Capricorn is sexually thwarted, the better aspects of his mind become debilitated, and he can fall from being a highly intelligent, creative human being to the depths of becoming disturbed, badly oriented creature. The female Capricorn, though, is not so addicted to alcohol either as a means for conviviality or as an escape, and she is more likely to go quite the other way, becoming an overly pious advocate of abstinence. No extreme behavior, whether stemming from the highest motives or used as a means of escape from the realities of an unpleasant situation, can ever bring happiness to the individual who is searching for it, but Capricornians find it hard to accept truth and continue their excessive pursuits. There is a dry frugality in both male and female Capricorns. Deprived of money in early life, Capricornians are conscious of its value. Generally, they are ambitious and clever to retrieve themselves from embarrassing financial difficulties by the time they reach middle age, but they never forget the hardships they endured because of their lack of means. As they age, they will not gamble or risk losing any of their hard-earned resources, even though they may miss out on profits which have a greater potentiality. This is again a manifestation of their bad timing. They can also be very avaricious in personal things, cutting down to the bare necessities in clothes and not being extravagant in the purchase of accessories. Spontaneous spending of anything more than the necessities of life is outside the realm of thought, though of course the idea of what indeed constitutes a necessity is not the same for each individual. On the whole, the influence of the ruling planet of Saturn is an unhappy one unless the subject is spiritually very highly evolved, as is often the case in the female and more rarely in the male. Most subjects of Capricorn go through the same dismal pattern of offbeat timing, either having a feast of sexual activity or a famine. When the latter occurs in the late life of the male, he is at his worst, difficult to live with, harsh in his approach to friends, and harsher still with himself. Conscious that he was regressing, and always more latent in fear that lurks behind his mind, the fear that will not fulfill his worldly ambitions before death overtakes him. And that describes people who have certain signs in Capricorn, especially the Sun, but not limited to that. The Moon's a big one. Mars and Venus are big ones as well. So, especially this is a very sex-oriented one, even more so than usual, despite this being a book about the love and sex of each sign. So I would think that Mars would have a particularly strong influence here, and because the sign is ruled by Saturn, Saturn would as well.
Even dark Lilith.
And your dark Lilith, yeah, that's right. That's a big sexual one. So there's only 2 signs left, just Aquarius and Pisces. So you've almost made it through the series, and hope you watch the other 2. Please subscribe.